Well, hello there. It's been a minute since I've uploaded a video on this channel. The last video I uploaded was supposed to be a full Q&A answering all the questions that you guys left on my community tab, and instead I got through like 7 and then I disappeared. I think I mentioned in that video that I was having my wisdom teeth removed the day after the video went up, and I did, and it went perfectly fine. However, it just took a lot longer to recover from it than I expected. It's been, let's see, almost 2 weeks. Like today that I'm filming is Wednesday, and I had it not last Friday, but the Friday before. And I'm just, I can still feel some very mild discomfort, but everything is mostly back to normal. It was just that first full week, I was like, there was like a little bit of swelling here, and like smiling and laughing and just stretching my mouth back kind of hurt. And so I didn't want to film a video where I was like zombie at you guys. That wasn't going to be, you know, entertaining in any way whatsoever. So I just took some time. And a lot actually has been going on because I did not take any time off work. I just took time off YouTube, and I want to catch you guys up on everything and also answer some more of the questions from the Q&A. So those are going to be kind of like peppered throughout this video. I will include timestamps below if you're looking for an answer to a specific question, so you can skip ahead. But it is Wednesday at 9:57 as I'm recording this, and that means it is almost time for Lisa's live stream. And I am going to jump in there and start working on my middle grade novel, which I will update you guys on the progress I have been making on that in just a few minutes.
What are you going to work on today?
I am working on my middle grade book, and I'm very excited. That is all I have to do all day.
Wow.
I had a client push back a deadline and our start date, so that kind of gave me an extra week to just work on my own book. And yeah.
There's nothing.
Okay, so a quick update on the middle grade novel. I am blanking out on how much of this I shared. I think I did do at least one vlog about this book in particular in the past, and if I did, I will link it up in the cards. But I thoroughly outlined it. I think I shared that with you guys. In fact, now that I'm talking this through, I think I finished the outline during the vlog, probably during Lisa's live stream a couple weeks ago. And as I think I mentioned before, I'm aiming for a 30,000 word. This is like on the younger side of middle grade. Very kind of, I don't want to say heavily, but somewhat illustrated. I'm playing with formatting things very similar to my Secrets of Topsy series that I co-authored with Kirsten Hubbard, and I think I shared some of the inside of that book so you guys can see kind of like get an idea of what I'm going for. The big revelation I had that helped this idea all click into place was that I was trying to make it lightly speculative, and it turns out it needed to be a fully just contemporary mystery, no magic or speculative elements involved at all. And yeah, let me show you exactly where I am with it. So as you can see, I broke this into chapters, and I actually created folders for each chapter, and they're numbered, and then inside is a combination of character scenes, which are just written like regular chapters, as well as the little kind of interstitials that are going to be in the book. So each one has at least a couple, and the colors indicate what's finished. So right now, I don't know why this one's blue. Right now, I have completely written a first draft of chapters 1 through 6. That's why those are purple, because they're finished, even though they definitely need some revising. And I'm working on chapter 7, and as you can see, there are 22 chapters, so I have been making pretty good progress. And as far as word count goes, there you go. I actually set the target for 25,000 words because I'm really trying to keep this short and sweet, but we'll see, it might hit 30. And I am just about at 12,000 words. So my goal for today is to add 3,000 words to this project, bringing it to 15,000 and hitting that halfway mark. Hopefully I'm already pretty close to the halfway mark, because like I said, if I'm aiming for 25,000 to 30,000 words, I would really love it if this was closer to 25,000, but we'll see. And I've got 1 minute left, so I'm gonna go grab a coffee and then we're gonna get back into the live stream.
So the question was, do you have to write what you know if everything you know is boring?
My first thought is that what's boring to you is going to be interesting to somebody else.
Well, that's a great little piece of advice.
Well, just, okay, look at The Office. I mean, not The Office. Not the show.
yeah,
Sorry,
look at
no.
The Office.
Oh my God, what's that movie? 90s movie. Guy who works at a boring job and he gets hypnotized in Office Space. See, that's why I mixed it up.
Yes.
Office Space, that is supposed to be about a guy who has, like, what looks like the world's most boring job, and they made a movie out of that, and it was very entertaining.
It was true. And there is some magic in the mundane sometimes.
Yeah.
It's a yes and no vexed question as far as I'm concerned, because writing what you know is the most misunderstood statement in all of writing, because humans are all boring, but we all have experience with human condition. And I think
Think for yourself, buddy.
writing what you know, I think, is your own experience in terms of what you feel strongly about, what you've experienced in life, as far as, being unfair, bad experiences that happened to you that you needed to overcome. And somewhere in the theme of your story, whether it's on planet Earth or a different galaxy, there's a human condition involved, and what you know and feel strongly about, that is what's going to pull it off.
No, because I think that people translate write what you know into like the sort of physical things that we know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know how to be an insurance adjuster, or oh, I know. And speaking of that, like I worked with an author ages ago who wrote about an IRS agent who ended up solving crimes. And but IRS agent feels like it would be the most boring job ever.
Yeah. And
yet this guy has rabid fans, among them some of the biggest mystery authors of our time, and movie interests and all kinds of other stuff. And it's about an IRS agent named Mort. Could you get more boring than that? But they're really interesting, fascinating books.
I think that the misinterpretation of that advice, write what you know, when it comes to fiction, is that people take it so literally, and just when really you should be thinking maybe more thematically, because that's just like what Robert just said. That's the part that's going to speak to people. Like Stephen King was not writing what he knew because he was never a 17-year-old girl who got bullied for having her first period in a locker room. But he is writing what he knows in every book, in that he knows what it's like to have demons. And that's really what all his books are about. His characters are haunted in some way, and he has experienced that himself, and he brings that to every book. It's not literally... Rosa! Sit! Gosh, the thing is, I've struggled with this in the past because I tried too hard to subvert expectations for the genre, and it ends up not making sense. Like, tropes are tropes for a reason. They're not necessarily bad. You know what I mean? Not everything needs to be subverted. So, I mean, that's a really good question. I will say, just again, for the book I'm writing right now, the thing that helped the most is that before I wrote an outline, I wrote exactly what my villain's plan was and what he was going to do step by step, and then I made sure at least one or two things went wrong for him along the way. And then I used that because it, like, so that it felt realistic, and I knew that when I got to the end, the reveal of this person would make sense. And then I took the things that went wrong and figured out, how are these going to be red herrings or clues for my character, and like starting there. I don't know if that answers the question, but it's where my mind went.
I think it totally does.
The sprint is over, and somehow I wrote exactly 500 words. And I mean 500 words total, like it's noon, and that's what I've written for today, which isn't bad at all. Usually I'm a little faster than that. We were having a really good discussion, though. Lisa just brought in some good questions that she's been getting from viewers, and yeah, it was well worth it. Honestly, I haven't socialized in a couple of weeks, so that was really nice. And I'm gonna work on this more this afternoon, but right now it is time to take a break and take Rosa out. Is it time to go on a walk? Is it time to go on a walk? Boop, boop. Here you go. Okay, we've had our walk, we've had a little lunch. I thought before I sit down and start writing again, we'll answer a few more questions that you guys left on my community tab. So we're gonna start with Daniel. How do you know when your blurb is good? I've written more than 250 revisions of my blurb, and I believe my last 50 are various degrees of good. But every time I send out for feedback, I still get told to revise. But every revision note guides me to a place where that just ain't my book anymore, or to a place I've already been in a previous draft. How do you assess the effectiveness of a blurb? And he adds, I know I would reply by saying the blurb ain't the problem, the book is, but the book is on revision number 11 and I have faith in it. Okay, well then I'm gonna trust you on that and we're just gonna talk about the blurbs. That is a whole lot of revisions, man. And kudos to you for putting the work in, because blurbs are important and sometimes it takes a lot of rounds to get a blurb to where it needs to be. But I mean, I would have to see it for myself, and also I would love to know like what kind of feedback you're getting, especially the feedback that's saying this isn't my book anymore. To me though, just based off what you've said, this sounds like a kind of a case of too many cooks in the kitchen. And I think at some point, and this goes for revisions of blurbs, revisions of books, at some point we pass through objective and we enter the land of subjective. And if somebody is telling you to revise your blurb in a way that makes it feel like it's not your book anymore, I think that's subjective on their part. They want it to, they think it would be catchier if it was X, but you know that your book is Y. And you are right not to go with that revision, because your blurb should represent your book at the end of the day. That's more important than maybe a slightly snappier pitch, in my opinion. What I would do is I would write down in as concise, just with as few words as possible, write down what it is that you consider to be the core of your book. And I don't mean like write a pitch. I just mean, what is it that so many of these critiques have been telling you to change or get rid of, that you're not willing to change and get rid of, and why that's important to the core of the story. And I would start from there. My suggestion to you is maybe take your top 3 favorite versions of your blurb right now. And another question I had is, how many different people are giving you feedback? Is this like the same person giving you different feedback, or are you sending it to like a different person every time? I would find a handful of your most trusted beta readers, or if you can afford to like hire someone to do like a pitch consultation or critique, a professional like a literary agent, an editor, someone like that, and just get that feedback, ask them which of the 3 pitches they think is best, clean that up as best you can, and go with it. If you feel that it best represents your book, then that's the best pitch for you. The only trouble I can see you getting yourself into, and I get myself into this a lot, is books are huge. They're hundreds and hundreds of pages. It's a long story, and blurbs cut a lot of stuff out. And I think it's very common for authors to want to work in all the cool stuff about their book, pack as much possible into a blurb. But that's not going to be as enticing as we want it to be to potential readers. We just can't shove it all in there. So really pick and choose what are the core selling points of your book. The conflict, the characters, the world, the plot. It might not be something about all of those elements, but what is it that makes yours stand out the most, I think. So yeah, that's what I would go for, is narrow it down to your top 3, clean them up real good, get one more round of feedback on them, and then pick one and go with it. I hope that helped. Okay, Joey asked, are there any things you do differently when it comes to your writing and publishing journey? This is a tricky one, because I mean, obviously I made some mistakes, and I, particularly in the first like 5 or 6 years, did a fairly poor job of managing my own expectations. But I also think that's just the kind of thing you have to learn through experience. In other words, if I were to say, for example, I would go back and tell myself for this book and this book, you know, don't expect, or don't like put all your self-worth as a writer into what your publisher is promising to do with it, because they're not gonna. But the thing is, it wouldn't have worked. It just doesn't work to tell yourself that, or to tell someone that. You just have to learn it through experience. So I'm trying to think of something practical, something that would have actually had a positive impact on my past self. And I just keep going back to that time right around 2018, 2019, where I went through this period of burnout, and then this like desperate, I'm not going to write what I'm passionate about anymore. I'm going to try to write to the market and write something that I just think is going to sell, like something super high concept and whatever. And just be like, honey, no. Write something that just like, write a weird story. Write whatever you're feeling passionate about. And if you're not feeling passionate about anything right now, just take a break from writing. It's fine to take a break from writing. I wish I had done one of those two things, because there's one project in particular, and I've talked about it a lot, where it's not bad. It wasn't really enjoyable for me. When I think back to the prominent emotion I felt while I was working on it, and this was like several months, the emotion I remember feeling is desperation. And that's not what you want to feel when you're writing, you know? So yeah, that's one thing I would go back and tell myself for sure. All right, we're gonna do one more. For middle grade and low word count books, how do you pack so much into such a small word count, yet keep it feeling so rich and full? Do you plot everything from dialogue to internal monologue and narration to fit within this 30 to 50K word count? And how do you choose what isn't relevant enough to fit with the story, especially when each scene and whatnot does help move the plot forward and at times gives insight into character arcs? This is a very good question to temporarily end on for now, because I am writing a hopefully 30,000 word middle grade mystery. And I'm going to say that is a really excellent question, and it is one of the things that I think it would probably be my number one reason that middle grade is not nearly as easy as people think it is. I have heard more adult and young adult authors than I can count just straight up say, I'm going to try writing middle grade. And because it seems like if I can write young adult or adult, obviously I can write middle grade. Not true. For some people, like different age levels, I don't think any of them are easier or harder to write compared to each other. I think authors are just like more, maybe like be more naturally inclined and better at writing one or the other. Yeah, middle grade is hard. It is, in my opinion, a lot harder to be concise and descriptive than verbose and descriptive. And I have read a lot of excellent adult novels. I have also read so many where I thought, my God, this is so, I mean, this book is 100,000 words and it really should be 80,000 words. Because there's so much unnecessary like navel gazing and descriptions that go on a little, just things that don't add to the plot. And I don't know. I think middle grade, attempting to write middle grade really helps you learn how to be incredibly economical with your words. And I would say the same about picture books and poetry for that matter. It's just a lot harder to me. And anyway, so I'll get off that soapbox for a minute. The way I approach it with middle grade is, first of all, this took a long time for me to really get down, but I know how detailed my own outlines tend to be. And this is going to be different from person to person. But usually if I, for example, I'm aiming for a 40,000 word novel, the outline is going to be somewhere between 8 and 10,000 words. I'm pretty detailed with my outlines. And to answer the second part of your question, if I think of a very good piece of dialogue, like I can hear it in my head as I'm writing the outline, yes, I do put it in the outline. but I don't include all of my dialogue in my outline. And as I'm doing my outline, I just focus on every single scene, as you said, has to move the plot forward. It has to also move the character's emotional arcs forward. If there is not an emotional shift within your character from the beginning of a chapter and the end of a chapter, then what really happened? They should, even if there isn't big action, it doesn't have to be action in that scene, the character must have experienced something that changes her emotion from this to this. If your character feels the same way at the beginning of the chapter that she did, and she feels the same way at the end of the chapter, that scene is going to feel flat. Something has to change. So I keep that in mind when I outline. And when I'm doing multi-POV, as I am now, I make sure that the other characters who are present in my current POV's scene also have advancement in the plot. So I'm trying to think of an example I can give as to what I mean. I would say the main character of the book I'm working on right now is a girl, a 5th grade girl, and one of the other POVs, there's a few, but she's the primary one. Definitely the secondary one is her dog. So they're together. I don't even think there's a single scene where they're not together, because this is a very contained, like the whole thing takes place in her apartment building. And so whenever I'm writing from the dog's point of view, the girl is there and she's still experiencing emotions and doing things to progress the plot and solve the mystery. And her dog is very observant of her. And it's actually become very interesting to me to play with. Okay, well, I know what her emotional arc is. How is the dog perceiving it? And how would he describe it to a young reader? You know, like, writing those books for Scholastic, all of the animal adventures that I do, has got me I really like writing from an animal's point of view. It's nothing I ever would have done if I hadn't gotten my first IP project doing it, and now it's something that I really enjoy. And then likewise, I try to make sure in every single one of the girl scenes that there is something about her dog that indicates where he is on his emotional arc, because he too has one. So it's a very careful balancing act, because you can't waste a single word. And that's why I've challenged myself to really try to stick to 25,000 words, because this is a very, I don't want to say simple story, but it is a girl and her dog trying to solve a locked room mystery that takes place over just the course of a couple of days in an apartment building. It doesn't take very long to tell. And it's been fun for me to make sure I pack as many clues and red herrings and just foreshadowing and things into every single scene, so that kids can experience the fun of trying to solve the mystery along with the girl and her dog. I'm not sure if that answered your question. I would just say, for me, outlining and combing over it like fine-tooth comb, making sure I have squeezed as much juice out of every single scene as I can, you know, that's, I don't know, I guess that's my answer. On that note, I'm gonna get back to writing, because talking, I don't know, I feel like I'm just rambling and not doing a very good job here, so let's get back to the book. All right, so I got a little over 2,000 words, and that brings me to 14,000 total. It's 5 o'clock, and I know my goal was 3,000 words, but it's just, this is gonna be it for today. And tomorrow I had not planned to work on this book at all, because it's my book packager work day, but I think I am gonna try to slide that extra 1,000 words in before I technically start the book packager stuff, which starts at 8 a.m. for me. So I'll just get up a little early and add those 1,000 words then. It's fine. I'll stay on track. I think the reason I was going a little bit slower today was, first, we just had a very chatty live stream, which was honestly really fun. And if you want to see the full conversation, I will link that down below. But part of it is that one of the there are a lot of interstitials in this book, like lots of in-between chapter kind of like fun with formatting and illustrations and things like that. And one of the things is a comic. One of the characters really likes to draw comics, and his contribution to the kids who are trying to solve the crime is that he draws comics showing potentially like what they know about the crime scene, how each suspect might have done what they did, like stolen the thing that was stolen, and he just uses, you know, comics to, that's how his mind works. It, like, his mind works better. He's a visual learner, and so I'm writing a script for the comics, which I've never written a script for that before. I spent some time today. This is what slowed me down. I was just looking up like different ways, formats that people use to write the script for a comic book, and I just chose the simplest one possible. Really, I'm just concerned about making it very consistent so that when editors and agents are reading this, they can easily visualize what I'm going for with the illustrations without it being just like a ton of description stuff, you know what I mean? So I spent a little bit of time messing with that today, and also kind of going back and reformatting the not great descriptions of the comic parts that I had already written up until this point. So, but it's really fun. And by the way, if you know, have any tips or suggestions for me, videos I could watch or blog posts I could read or whatever about comic book formatting for scripts, I would greatly appreciate it. That would help me out a lot. So that is going to be that for today, and I will get to more questions next week. And yeah, that's it. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next week with another video. Bye.